Hello and welcome to the first ever chess game of Judit Polgar. She played this game at the age of 10 against the Grandmaster, but already her style was very similar to the style that she became famous for. It was a very aggressive attacking game. She actually played even the King's Gambit, and she tried to really go after her opponent, even though actually in the game Black was a Grandmaster. So if you happen to not know, Judit Polgar is the strongest female chess player of all time. She broke the record of Bobby Fischer of becoming the youngest Grandmaster ever, or at least at her time actually. So later on some people actually did break her record as well. So she became Grandmaster at the age of 15, and then while she was a truly world-class player, she won several gold medals in the Olympiad, and she even played for the World Chess Championship. So well, after this introduction, let's go back to the game. So Judit is with the white pieces. As mentioned, she's 10 years old at this point, and her opponent is Serbian Grandmaster Stefan Juric. And they played this game in Austrian Open tournament. So as mentioned before, the e4 was how Judit started the game, and she actually stuck to this gun for essentially forever for her whole career. And after e5, Judit went with the King's Gambit f4. So here the two main lines are taking the pawn and d5, but Judith's opponent played the move bishop c5. But at this point Judith is underrated, so maybe her opponent hoped that, well, this young girl is going to play something like f takes e5, and after queen h4 the Grandmaster will have sort of a day off because it's over immediately. But this is not what happened, of course, because Judith was already very strong. He played the move knight f3, d6, c3, knight f6, d4, takes, bishop b4, bishop d2. And actually here we stop for a second. We can see that white has a very beautiful center, so black has to act very quickly now to do something. So he should really push some d5 and try to counter in the center, but that's not how the game goes. He just castles, bishop d3, knight c6, castle, and we can actually see that white is doing very well after the opening. So the Grandmaster opponent saying that, well, it's time to mix up something because the position is looking very bad. So black plays the move knight b4, obviously hitting this bishop, and when Judith retreats, plays the move c5. So that's the way that black tries to counter in the center. But this is actually not all that good, because after e3, knight c6, d5, knight e7, white has a beautiful center. You can see these pawns here, but is also a bit ahead in developing his pieces. This knight is going to jump to c4, and at some point some e5 break could be the plan, and while white has chances of just breaking through and smashing this Grandmaster. So Judith starts slowly. He plays the move a4. The point is, of course, to make sure that black will not be able to play b5 because his pawn controls it, and then there will be this very nice outpost for the knight on c4. Now comes b6 with the idea of developing the bishop. Comes knight c4, bishop a6, so pinning this knight along the file. Now comes knight d2. Actually also b3 was a very logical move to make here, to protect this pawn, protect this knight, and if black ever takes, then after b takes c4, well, this pawn center is just amazing. a5 is in the air, white is gonna break through immediately. But Judith played knight d2 so that he would be able to recapture with the knight. Knight g6, queen f3, some developing moves, bishop d3, it's a good idea to remove this pin. Rook b8, queen g3, so well, very soon there will be some knight takes d6 threat, or f5 and knight d6. There's also e5 in the air, so the Grandmaster here decided that well, it's time to do something. So he makes the move f5. And here white has several good options. Judith took the pawn, which is very natural. Could have also just played e5 and break through in the center, that's also huge advantage, but e takes d5 is absolutely good. And here comes knight h4. And here, well, probably Judith felt that she's doing really very well, and she started to simplify the position to go for an ending when she's just up a pawn, and she can just convert this. But the best move in the position would have been just to put the rook on the open file, with the idea that if you take on f5, then after exchanging there comes knight takes d6, and it's not only that the rook is hanging, but there is rook e8 in the air, winning the queen, and well, white is just winning. This was also very logical, but Judith decided to just hang on to her pawn, which is also very logical, as mentioned before. Just play queen g5, protecting this pawn, and if you ever take on g5, then white takes back with the pawn, and these guys are going to be killers essentially. So here came h6, queen d8, rook takes d8, and here comes the move g4 to protect this pawn. Comes knight f6, and now I invite you to stop the video actually and try to figure out how to continue with white. So it seems a bit like that Judith sort of weakened her grip, because now black is threatening to take on g4, that's a pawn, take on d5, that's another pawn, and all of a sudden the black pieces seem to be sort of active. This spin along this line is not very comfortable, so all of a sudden it seems that black is back in the game. But the huge problem for black is that there is this h4 knight that's just basically trapped at the side of the board. And Judith goes after this knight immediately with a very nice king f2 move, with the idea of playing king g3 and just capture this knight. And after knight d5, king g3, this knight is indeed in huge danger. Comes knight b4, bishop b1, d5. So there is the spin again. So that's a good trump in the pocket of black. But now Judith plays knight a5 with the idea of just simply sacrificing the exchange, and this knight is still hanging. So here comes g5, takes, en passant, and rook e8. And here comes another critical position of the game. So all of a sudden actually black is the one who has very active pieces and is clearly ahead of development. This bishop is a bit ugly, but especially this rook is just totally out of play. There's also all these lines around in the center, so black is more or less threatening to take on e5. So rook takes e5, with the idea that if you take back with the pawn, there will be this knight hanging behind. So the position is again still very sharp. But here there is a very nice move for white to consolidate. So you could realize that actually you, as white, you have some time, because this knight cannot run away anywhere. The huge threat is taking your knight. So because of this threat on the f file, so what you can do with white is just make a nice silent move, knight d2, removing all the threats of black, and later say d4, rook a3. You're slowly going to develop your pieces, and at the right moment you can just take on h4, double up on this knight to protect, and then white will be up material. So knight d2 was by far the best way to go on, and it actually is a winning move. But unfortunately Judith missed this move, and we can also actually suspect that it's move 30, so there might be also some time trouble, although we have absolutely no data on this. And Judith played the move knight d7, also quite logical. The idea is that while you're hitting this rook now, it's actually this rook is trapped, so all the squares are controlled by white, and once this whole thing finishes in the back rank of black, at the end of the day you can always just take this knight and white expected to be up material. But the problem here is that black counter punches with rook e1, very uncomfortable pin on the first rank, and when you take on h4, black also takes the rook on f1, the knight on f1. Still you are pinned here. At this point actually black is up on exchange, but white still has these pawns to push. And well, it's hard to guess what could have happened here, because for some reason she didn't play the most straightforward move. So here obviously the most straightforward is that if you just take the exchange and see what happens. And well, this is actually more or less winning with white, because after king takes f8 you can play the move f5, and if black tries to take the exchange like this, Then these pawns are going to quickly queen. There could come rook f1, bishop f5, and then there will be g7 check and bishop a6 coming, and white is going to win. But for some reason this is not what Judith did. What she did was playing move king h5, and after rook takes f4, this rook is actually this rook has survived, and now it's going to be black who is going to be a lot better. So comes king takes h6, rook g4, rook a3, with a trap, of course, that if you take on b1 and there's knight f6, hitting the king and the rook, winning the rook. So rook h3 is the way that you can get out of the pin. But still after rook takes g2, knight f6, king f8. Actually, all of a sudden black is just winning. He's up by too much material. Black is up too much material. There's not much Judit can do here. So there are some more moves. Knight g4, rook h1, bishop f5. It seems that there are quite many pieces around here, so the black king could be in trouble, or you can try to play king f6 and promote the pawn, but this is just not going to happen. King g7 is a nice consolidating move, controlling the square so that the white king cannot go further. Comes knight e3, rook f2, bishop g4, d4. Very unfortunate that black also has ace pawns to push. Knight f5. It's a good idea to give some material back to simplify the position. And actually the game is going to end quickly, because here Judith blundered her bishop, rook e1, check game, and she resigned because the only move is king f4. There comes rook f5, and this bishop is going to be taken. Doesn't help if you put your rook there, because after taking, there's nobody guarding this bishop. So yeah, this was the first game of Judit Polgar. As mentioned, a very aggressive and very interesting game. And she had already at the age of 10, she had really good chances against the Grandmaster. So especially in this position, I think realizing that there is no rush for white to do stuff, you can just save all your pieces, get out of the potential pin in the first rank, and then go after this knight that cannot be saved. And that was a very nice way to win the game. It's unfortunate that Judith didn't see it. Yeah, so that's it about this game. And as always, you can suggest me games. Which one would you like to see, or which player you would like me to cover in this series of games from their childhood. And my plan is for the next game is to cover the first ever game that Magnus Carlsen faced the Grandmaster. So see you in that video.